Stallone used to be so poor that he sold his dog for $40. When he landed Rocky, he bought him back for $15,000 and gave him a role. In the 1950s, Elvis Presley's manager sold I Hate Elvis badges as a way to make money from people who weren't buying Elvis merchandise. Donnie Dunagan was the youngest US Marine drill instructor. He served 3 tours in Vietnam and was wounded several times, retiring as a major in 1977. Throughout this career he managed to keep secret that he had been the voice of Bambi in the 1942 Disney film. In her early young adult years, Rosemary Kennedy experienced seizures and violent mood swings. In response to these issues, her father arranged a prefrontal lobotomy for her in 1941 when she was 23 years of age. The procedure left her permanently incapacitated and rendered her unable to speak intelligibly. Realistical Disney characters generated by AI. The legendary Soviet Georgian water polo player Pyatom Shvini rides with his grandson. 1990s. This guy's wearing a 4 kilo pure gold shirt worth $211,000. A scientist takes a sample of water from a mine deep underground in Ontario, Canada. The water turned out to be 2.6 billion years old, the oldest known water on Earth. Josef Menšik, The Last Knight. He lived in Czechoslovakia until 1945 like a real knight in a castle, without electricity or cars. He even attacked German tanks on his horse in full armor during World War II. This is a photo of the surface of asteroid 162,173 Ryugu, taken at night by Hayabusa 2. My ancestor King Billy left, known for being the last full-blooded Aboriginal man in the colony of Tasmania. Me, right, born in America 150 years later. Huge beer pack of 3241 cans for sale in Finland. Images of Queen Elizabeth during World War II as a driver and mechanic. Found a receipt for a Boeing 737 aircraft today. The Speer wine bottle is a bottle of liquid, probably wine, originally found near Speer, in Germany, in 1867, and has been called the world's oldest existing bottle of wine. The bottle has been dated at 325 AD or 350 AD, and it is believed to be the oldest unopened bottle of wine in the world. Experts believe 100s of historic photos of 9/11 will never see the light of day due negative judgment and backlash their originators might receive from publishing them. A 36-year-old man in California was admitted to the ICU for heart failure. After he was placed on blood thinners, he spat up a cast of his lung's right bronchial tree. My uncle chauffeured me to my wedding in my family's 108-year-old heirloom that still runs. An original 1914 Ford Model T. Otto and Frank's father revisits the attic where the family hid from the Nazis. He was the only survivor of his family. 1960. India's largest statue. Residential block in Hong Kong. Some rockstars' high school yearbook photo. Oksana Malaya was severely neglected by her parents and raised by their pet dogs. She crawled around on all fours rather than walking. She could not talk, but instead communicated by barking. She slept on the ground and took care of her hygiene like a dog. In the aftermath of the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, Hideki Ikewa rushed home from work to find his neighborhood flooded with up to 10 feet of water. He then retrieved a wetsuit and swam nearly 200 meters to search for his wife and mother. He eventually reached his house and found his wife barely breathing in the upper level and got her to safety. He rescued his mother 4 days later from the second floor of a flooded house. He didn't stop there and went into the freezing water every day to look for more survivors. I received a package with Walmart's tax info. In 2016, China's first smart police robot, the Inbot police robot, started patrolling the Shenzhen airport. It is equipped with 4 high-resolution facial recognition cameras and a taser for crime fighting and riot control. Figs are not really a fruit. They're inverted flowers. They require a unique kind of pollination that only comes from fig wasps that have to die inside in order for the fruit to mature. The fig produces an enzyme called ficane which digests the dead wasp, and the fig absorbs the nutrients to create the ripe fruits and seeds. Yesterday the news showed Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau speaking French. My TV's auto-closed captioning started subbing what French sounds like in English. Pictured is Oriani Capera, who has a mokokori, a lower chin tattoo worn by Maori women, the first woman in world journalism history to wear a visible tattoo and remain employed. Kevin Sweeney got the highest possible score on a Mensa test, 162, scoring higher than the likes of Stephen Hawking, who has an IQ of 160. Although Albert Einstein never officially took an IQ test, his is believed to have been the same. Reference of world leaders' terms compared to Queen Elizabeth's reign. Elon Musk's father, Errol, recently confirmed that he has a second child with his 35-year-old stepdaughter, Jenna Bezuidenhout. With him he already shares a 5-year-old boy, who was born in 2017. Errol, who is 76 years old, said the only thing we are on Earth for is to reproduce. Native Americans had a planting technique where they would plant corn, bean and squash crops close to each other. The corn provides a structure for the beans to climb. The beans give nitrogen to the soil, and the squash spreads on the ground to prevent weeds from growing. These companion crops were known as the Three Sister. The oldest person ever documented, Jean Calment, smacked for 100 years, drank a daily glass of wine, and ate 2 pounds of chocolate every week. She died aged 122, outliving both her daughter and her daughter's son. Snoop Dogg now has his own kids channel on YouTube. Kid Barack Obama with his mother and Unum in Hawaii. Meet the first female to earn a medical degree as the USA. Elizabeth Bulkwell had been rejected or expelled from every medical school she applied to for being a woman. Finally, one dean chose to cast a vote for her admission, but said if even one of the male students objected, they'd reject her. To his shock, all of the young men voted to accept her except for one. But he was subdued by the others until he agreed. She became the first female to earn a medical degree in the US. I-55 in Memphis, Tennessee is currently closed due to a Alfredo sauce spill. Identifying medieval English longbows. Medieval English longbows could fire an arrow more than 300 yards and required so much strength that the skeletons of medieval archers can be identified by their enlarged left arms. Sister Mary Kenneth Keller, the first woman to earn a doctorate in computer science in the United States, 1965. Ukrainian hackers created fake profiles of attractive women to trick Russian soldiers into sharing their location, report says. Days later, the base was blown up. This is how NASA's Artemis 1 compares to other rockets in the world. Parisian prisoners were offered freedom if they agreed to marry prostitutes and move to Louisiana. David Hampton planted large trees in the Douglas fir forest in Oregon to create a smiley face. It returns each fall and make a happy showing. An empty Boeing 787. Can anyone explain how this rock formation is possible? How it could have formed naturally? I'm seeing these everywhere off the highways in India. Floor homeless shelter attached to Amazon Seattle headquarters. Amazon fully funds the utilities, maintenance, and security. Amazon employees can volunteer to teach coding classes, help with resumes, and do mock job interviews. The tallest, fattest, and shortest men of Europe play a game of cards. 1913. This is Elliot Tanner. He just finished his degree in physics and math. He'll be starting his PhD in the fall, becoming one step closer to achieving his dream of becoming a professor. He's 13. The courage and desperation this has to have taken. When the doctor activated the hearing device in Harold's ear, the first burst of sound shot through its wires. The photographer Jack Bradley snapped this shot, effectively immortalizing the expression of awe and wonder on the child's face as an entirely new form of perception was unlocked. His father left when he was 3. He dropped out of high school because of dyslexia. His best friend overdosed and died when he was 23. His child was born stillborn. His girlfriend died in a car crash shortly after. He has avoided serious relationships ever since. He took care of his sister when she was sick with leukemia. He donated 70% of his earnings from The Matrix to charity. Truly breathtaking. Chicago local number 1 iron workers remake the iconic lunch atop a skyscraper photo that was originally captured in 1932. Our universe could be the mirror image of an antimatter universe extending backwards in time before the Big Bang. The Big Separation. Universe. Anti-universe. Silent film star Rudolph Valentino owned a ring that was said to be cursed. After he died unexpectedly at 31 years old, the next 6 people to own the ring all became seriously ill or died while in possession of the ring. Its whereabouts are now unknown. DALL-E introduced outpainting, a tool where AI completes images beyond their original borders. Tumpaksu waterfalls in Indonesia with an active volcano behind them. In the 1640s, the Dutch inhabitants of New Amsterdam built a 12-foot wall to keep the bad hombres out. In 1664, the British ignored the wall and took New Amsterdam by sea. It's now called New York. They took down the wall and built a street. It's called Wall Street. 17-year-old teenagers in South Sudan. They are from the Dinka tribe, which has the tallest group of people in the world. Grave of a Protestant man and his Catholic wife who were not allowed to be buried together. Netherlands 1888. Deers shed the velvet on their antlers after they are fully grown. This happens once a year. It does not hurt at all. Sometimes they even eat the velvet. FA-18F Super Hornet flying meters from Brisbane city buildings during the Brisbane Festival today. This is how Earthworld looked like if it had a ring system like Saturn. From Ecuador. From Polynesia. From Alaska. From Washington DC. If Earth had rings like Saturn. Cross-section of a radioactive waste barrel. Hugh Jackman started his own coffee brand and foundation called Laughing Man after meeting a struggling coffee farmer in Ethiopia. His goal was to provide a marketplace for farmers in developing countries to sell their goods for a fair price. Jackman donates 100% of profits. Mossad disliked a performer named Adriana Ferraris Del Bean. Mossad disliked a performer named Adriana Ferraris Del Bean. So, knowing her tendon to drop her chin on low notes and throw back her head on high ones, Mossad wrote a song with constant leaps from low to high in order to make her head bob like a chicken on stage. Technician accidentally fires Vulcan cannon and obliterates F-16 sitting on the runway. Just a normal day in Switzerland. Is that okay? My keyboard and mouse which survived a bombing of my house in Mecca live. This hair artist's wild work by Letitia Key. House cat suffering from myostatin-related muscle hypertrophy, a rare condition that causes muscles to grow excessively large. USS Texas, the only American battleship from World War I still in existence, has been dry docked for the first time in over 30 years. What perfectly true story of yours sounds like an outrageous lie? Just up the street from my apartment in San Francisco, there was one of those fast food restaurants that was either a KFC or a Taco Bell, depending on the angle from which it was viewed. The establishment was a frequent stopping point for students coming from the nearby college, and those students were a frequent target for a remarkably bright crow. Now, on most days, the bird in question would just hang around the restaurant, as well as other ones nearby, and scavenge for scraps. Every once in a while, though, I saw this happen twice, and had it happen to me once, it would enact a much more complex scheme than simply going through the gutter. The crow had apparently discovered that money could be exchanged for food, so it would wait until it saw a likely mark, squawk at them to get their attention, then pick up and drop a coin. Anyone who responded would witness the bird hopping a few feet away, then following its victim toward the source of its next snack. When the crow approached me, it dropped a nickel on the ground. I stooped, picked up the coin, and then jumped slightly when the bird made a noise that sounded not unlike taco. Needless to say, I bought that crow a taco. The final out-of-pocket cost for me, minus the nickel, was something like $1.15. Even so, I figured a bird that smart deserved a reward simply for existing. Of course, that was probably exactly what I was supposed to think. Too long. Didn't read. A crow paid me 5 cents to buy it a taco. This 25 feet statue of a Hindu god Ganesha, made out of bananas. This store in India. Hotler for men. A retired Danish special forces officer modified a 1979 Camaro with all the armor and detection avoidance equipment available to him by the US Air Force to deliver much needed medicine and supplies to civilians in 1990s war-torn Bosnia. Simpsons characters as imagined by AI. Homer. Bart. Close up to orangutan's hands. New York. 1621 Nova York, 2021. Two praying mantises perched on a branch in Cyprus. Maya Angelou on the $quarter. The number of finger joints on each hand, excluding the thumb, makes it possible to count to 12 by using the thumb. Egyptians and Babylonians were fond of counting in base 12 like this, and this is why we have 24 hours in a day and 60 minutes in an hour. This 1980s computer is still hard at work. I present to you an Apple IIe still in use at a local U-Haul facility. The owner said it operates the gate system for their self-storage units. When tree 10 red pandas stand up and extend out their claws to look bigger and more dangerous. Kehui Kwan and Harrison Ford 40 years apart. 1984. 2022. Clever man indeed. During the American Revolution, an enslaved man named Billy was charged with treason and sentenced to hang. Cleverly, he argued that, since he was legally considered property, he was not a citizen and could not commit treason against a government to which he owed no allegiance. Billy was subsequently pardoned. The bathtub of the Russian Emperor Alexander I. Shannon Lanier, TV news anchor, is a direct descendant of Thomas Jefferson. The first image taken of Jupiter versus the James Webb photo. This is how most of my friends and I learned how to ride a bike in the 90s in Romania. One of the few wild places still left, and truly beautiful. 4 shades of blue captured in a single image in Antarctica. Boats could once motor over the top of the Gregory Arch when Lake Powell was full. Due to the drought, for the first time since the 1960s, they can cruise under the monumental span of rock. On August 7, 1982, Red Sox DH Jim Rice rushed to the stands from the dugout to help carry a young boy who had just been struck with a hard foul ball in the head to an ambulance and is credited with saving the boy's life. Rice played the rest of the game in a blood-soaked uniform. This is a completely unedited photo my wife took last night at the Rammstein concert. Jewish prisoner saved from death train, 1945. Aurora Borealis on Saturn captured by the Hubble Space Telescope. Carved out of solid rock. A prehistoric elasmotherium, also known as a Siberian unicorn, extinct 39,000 years ago. Ralph Lincoln, 11th generation cousin of President Abraham Lincoln. The Shambles in York, England. A narrow street with well-preserved medieval buildings, some dating back as far as the 14th century. My friend found a US manual for soldiers during World War II on how to pronounce French. We are French and find it really funny.